My name is TJ, and I love movement shooters. Of course I play other stuff too, like fractions? The hell is this? What the hell is... But if I want to feel like I'm a greased up super soldier, movement shooters are my go-to game. We all know where it began, Wolfenstein 3D, but I don't really consider that a movement shooter. So how did we evolve from a game that doesn't even allow you to aim up or down, to games that let you zoom through the map at the speed of sound? Or games where the grapple hook has more miles on it than the backseat of your mom's minivan? Let's get into it. The year is 1992. Wolfenstein 3D just spawned out of thin air and revolutionized the video game industry forever. I can see the game through the eyes of the protagonist. You can see in first person? I hope nobody copies this and creates an entire genre out of it. In 1996, Quake became what you would call a big deal in the birth of movement shooters. It introduced players to the art of bunny hopping, a technique that allowed skilled players to maintain momentum while jumping around. This simple yet innovative mechanic became a defining feature for movement shooters, creating a community of players who sought to master the art of speed. And now, like 28 years later, bunny hopping is still enjoyed by a very dedicated player base and viewer base around the world. Moving on to 2 years later, 1998, someone thought it was a good idea to take an FPS game and turn your feet into butter. The map is butter. Also, you have a jetpack. It's probably butter. A game called Tribes gave us an open environment with ramped surfaces, which made a significant impact on just how fast-paced a first-person shooter could be. Projectile weapons, moving targets, jump pads, interesting game modes, all of this made for a very, very smooth ride. Tribes was and still is one of a kind, even now in 2024, but a third installment is on its way and I'm pretty stoked. Let's get back to 1999. Counter-Strike. Shifting from Quake's frantic pace to something more tactical and slow-paced isn't really bringing anything to the table right now for movement shooters. So why do I mention this game? Well, Counter-Strike would, over time, popularize bunny hopping even further and invent something called surfing. And combat surfing, which is... it's ridiculous. You should look it up. It's absolutely nuts. Counter-Strike still emphasizes on slow, methodical movement, crouching, walking silently, but the custom servers are forever gonna be dominated by fully populated bunny hopping and surfing servers. In the same year that Counter-Strike made us slow down our pace a bit, Unreal Tournament made its mark by introducing us to mid-air dodge jumping. This allowed players to perform mid-air dashes, changing in direction rapidly, so dodge jumping became a must-have skill. Best part of Unreal was that some of the weapons felt like the beefiest boomstick you've ever held in your hands. That sounded kinda weird. Or did it? For the next 10 years or so, we get some of the best shooters I've played in my life. I'm talking about games like Half-Life series, the Halo series, games like Team Fortress, Call of Duty franchise, Battlefield franchise, Prey, Hello Kitty Roller Rescue. Good games, good movement, sure, but not really movement shooters. Until the year 2008. Breaking away from traditional shooters, Mirror's Edge releases, offering a breath of fresh air when it comes to movement. The game introduced first-person parkour mechanics, enabling players to fluidly navigate environments by running, jumping, climbing, and you can do those like little rolly things they do to not break both their ankles. One trade-off with Mirror's Edge was the shooter part of the game was severely lacking. With only a handful of guns and not really any incentive to use them apart from a couple spots in the story mode, shooter fans were left disappointed. But maybe, just maybe, some other game could come along and combine shooting and parkour properly. maybe something like Brink. In 2011, Brink was looking to redefine movement shooters with its SMART system, smooth movement across random terrain. Developed by Splash Damage, Brink aimed to provide a dynamic and interesting movement experience, but this simply wasn't enough adrenaline-pumping action. The game eventually fell flat in its face a couple weeks after release because it simply didn't offer us what we wanted. What we wanted was the year 2014. Respawn Entertainment's Titanfall elevated movement shooters to new heights by integrating some smooth movement mechanics. These mechanics allowed players to scale walls, traverse vertical spaces, and even engage in intense mid-air combat. Titanfall seamlessly blended fast-paced gunplay with dynamic parkour, creating an exhilarating experience that set a benchmark for movement shooters at the time. It was totally different from the beloved arena movement shooters of the past, but that didn't really seem to bother its dedicated player base, who seemed to love the addition of big mech robots and AI enemies thrown in the mix. Definitely not the classic format of movement shooters, but then yet again it doesn't get more classic than 2016's Doom. While the new Doom game at the time didn't introduce a groundbreaking movement mechanic, it kinda reinvigorated itself with a new moveset. Comparing this title to the old ones is like comparing a world filled with games to a world filled with no bacon and no games. Doom 2016 put an emphasis on fast-paced combat and glory kills. The game encouraged aggressive playstyles, rewarding players for engaging enemies head-on, and the need for constant movement to evade enemies and seek better positions became a crucial aspect of the new Doom gameplay. This caused a pretty big chunk of gamers to feel the need to try out something we call boomer shooters nowadays, reigniting the need for speed and twitchy movements in first-person shooters. And boy did we get a good movement shooter that year. Titanfall 2. I don't think I have to explain what Titanfall 2 is. If you watch previous videos on my channel, you're probably into movement shooters a little bit, so you must know what I'm talking about. Titanfall 2 took the movement from TF1 and added butter. Butter. I don't think any shooter has ever felt this fun to just move around in. Whether you use the stim or grapple hook to get around, you can feel the smoothness that the lovely devs at Respawn made for us. A lot of so-called movement tech was discovered in the speedrunning community, and honestly I think you should watch a speedrun of Titanfall 2 after this video just to see what I mean. It's absolutely ridiculous. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into the game for sure, and I think the entire community is thankful to the janitor that recently fixed the servers after years of DDoS attacks. Titanfall's only problem was a bad release date, simply a lack of support after launch, and still to this day I think I can speak for the entire community when I say that Titanfall 2 is the best, the absolute GOAT, the MVP, the bacon of movement shooters. So where do we go from here? Well, loads of games have been made since the 90s. Games like Cube 2 Sauerbraten, which is almost 20 years old and still deserves way more attention than any new slide cancelling nonsense. Or maybe sequels to older games like the Half-Life series, Quake, new Doom games, new Tribes games, new Unreal games, but nothing that really screams movement shooter when I think about it. In the year 2019 though, Respawn returned to the scene by silently launching a little game called Apex Legends. Apex Legends is a battle royale game set in the Titanfall universe. While not introducing a single new movement mechanic in the beginning, Apex Legends innovated by giving each legend a unique ability. From portal creation to stim-enhanced speeds, these abilities added a tactical layer to movement, transforming the battle royale experience completely. Looking back on it now, some people have found out things like wall running used to actually be part of Apex. But with the enemies being able to pop up on any angle at any time, the Battle Royale concept would be ruined for sure. So the devs scratched pretty much any fun movement tech that there was in Titanfall, and they either removed it completely or put them on a cooldown. Titanfall 2's grapple hook, for example, locked behind just one legend that could use it. They did use Pathfinder, so that was pretty cool, I guess. And the cooldown lasted longer than me in bed with your mom, so where's the fun in that? Over time, people have found some movement mechanics like wall bumps, etc., but nothing that really captured that smooth Titanfall, swooshy feel, you know? If it wasn't for the fact that the guns are obviously the same, I wouldn't even know this game was part of the Titanfall universe. Now if we go past 2020, I think most of you, if not all of you, probably know exactly which games are considered great movement shooters of today's day and age. Games like Ultra Kill, Dusk, Get to the Orange Door, Echo Point Nova, Turbo Overkill, Frog Fractions. They're all very good movement shooters that capture the essence of speed and badassery. The year is now 2024. We've come a long way, honestly. Not all of us, of course. Some of you aren't old enough to have experienced the entire history of movement shooters. Maybe you're like me, you're around 30 years old or something. You might have experienced some of those classics, but not in their prime. Others are simply too young to even know what Quake or Unreal is. You might not even see the appeal for an arena-type shooter now. The genre has pretty much died out. The only progression you get from those games is actual IRL progression. You get better at aiming, you get better at movement, and map knowledge, I guess? The shooter market today is very varied and ever-changing. There's bound to be something for everyone. From a simple bunny hopping mechanic to diving through windows in the latest Call of Duty, I'm very happy to be alive at this time and age. I went from old school shooters on my off-white Dell computer back in the day to experiencing the fluidity of being a grapple pilot in Titanfall 3. I mean, god damn it, Titanfall 2. So in conclusion, I'd like to say, the evolution of movement shooters has been a long road of innovation. From Quake's bunny hopping to the parkour-inspired movements of Mirror's Edge and the dynamic wall running and momentum of Titanfall. Each game introduced a unique element, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible at the time. As we constantly stand at the edge of the future of video games, we can only anticipate the next groundbreaking movement mechanic that will shape the landscape of movement shooters. To me personally, the king of the castle is still Titanfall 2, but maybe I have a different opinion. Let me know your favorite in the comments, or maybe a game that I missed. I normally don't ever ask for this, but I've worked on this video for a while now, and I kinda wanna see if this works. If you enjoy my content, subscribe, leave me a like or a comment, and maybe the algorithm picks me up just because of you. So thank you. My name is TJ, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Giveaway at 2K subs, boys.